The woman deliberately cut off her own hair, carefully packing it into a bag. She then took out hair dye and changed the color of her hair and eyebrows. Next, she sprinkled disinfectant on the floor to erase any traces of her presence. Grabbing a hammer, she forcefully struck herself with it. Her actions were all part of a plan to make herself completely disappear and frame her husband for her murder. 6 months ago, she had devised a detailed scheme. First, she maxed out her husband's credit cards, purchasing various expensive luxury items and hiding them away to create the illusion that he was facing a financial crisis. To solidify the accusation of her husband killing his wife, she bought a high-value insurance policy for herself, with her husband as the beneficiary. She then deliberately befriended her pregnant neighbor, often confiding in her about the domestic abuse she suffered at the hands of her husband. She invited the neighbor over to her house and, after the neighbor used the restroom, collected her urine sample. With this sample, she could prove that she herself was pregnant, using the status of a pregnant woman to portray herself as a vulnerable victim. With all the preparations in place on their wedding anniversary, she waited for her husband to leave the house. She then inserted a needle into a vein in her arm and withdrew a large bottle full of blood. She splattered the blood on the kitchen cabinets and poured the rest onto the floor, spreading it evenly with her hands. To make it look more realistic, she used her 2 palms to create a trail of blood, then wiped away the excess with paper towels, allowing the blood to seep into the cracks of the floorboards. She then soaked a hammer in blood and tossed it into the fireplace to burn. To ensure the plan was foolproof, she had written 300 diary entries in advance, starting with a passionate romance and fabricating stories to make the events that happened to her seem both real and cruel. She placed the diary in the oven, burning it just enough to give the impression that her husband had destroyed evidence. Finally, she drove off alone and disappeared, arriving in an unfamiliar city where she rented a room, waiting for her husband to be arrested for murder.